If you've ever asked, what do you want for dinner, and felt your whole body tense, this video is for you. Because that question isn't really about food, it's about one more decision in a day that already has too many. Most parents don't come to therapy because they've stopped loving each other. They come because they feel tired, irritable, and disconnected inside a relationship they still really care about. And after a baby, life becomes a constant stream of decisions. Who's picking up? What's for dinner? Did we sign that? When's that due? Who needs what? And when your brain is constantly making these micro decisions, your nervous system stays in survival mode. So when people ask me, what are the best relationship apps for busy parents? I think about what reduces decision fatigue, not what adds to it. Because when your nervous system is overloaded, your brain actually changes how it processes the world. And when you're under chronic stress, which is what early parenthood is, your body spends more time in what we call sympathetic nervous system activation. That's the fight or flight part of the brain. In that state, your threat detection is turned way up and your patience is turned down. And your brain becomes much more focused on what's wrong than what's safe. So a neutral comment like, did you take out the trash, gets heard as, you never do anything right. Not because your partner is sensitive, but because their nervous system is in protection mode. Your prefrontal cortex, the part that helps you think clearly, interpret tone, and stay flexible, actually goes partially offline under stress. And that's why small things can feel really huge. Misunderstanding escalates fast, and couples say things they don't even mean. This is how loving, committed couples start to feel disconnected. Not because love is gone, but because their bodies are overwhelmed. And when you reduce decision fatigue and mental load, you're not just helping with logistics, you're literally helping your nervous system shift back into safety and connection mode, where closeness becomes possible again. I see this all the time in my office. When parent comes in, they're already holding their breath, because they're running through mental checklists even while they're talking to me. Did I reply to that email? Did we run out of milk? Who's picking up? And their shoulders are tense. They interrupt themselves. They look tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. And then the other partner sits a little guarded. They're careful with their words. They've learned that even a small mistake can spark a big reaction. Not because their partner is unreasonable, but because their partner is overwhelmed. And so they start pulling back, they say less, and they try not to make waves. And both of them feel lonely. They don't want to fight, they don't want distance, and they want to feel like they're on the same team again. So when we start taking some of the thinking out of their heads and putting it into shared system, whether it's a calendar, a list, a weekly check-in, something tangible happens. You can literally watch their bodies relax. They sit back in their chairs, they smile more, they joke, they stop bracing for impact because their nervous systems finally get a message, I don't have to do this alone. And that's why these tools matter. Not because they're fancy tools, but because they give couples room to breathe again. And this is actually why I created something called All the Things Organizers. It was after years of working with couples and being a parent myself. And it was sparked by a conversation with one of my clients. And I realized that so much of what's breaking us down isn't emotional, it's cognitive. It's everything you're holding in your head. So this organizer is a way to get all of that out of your brain and into one shared space. Not so you can be more productive, but so you don't feel alone inside the workload. You can download it at happywithbaby.com. It's free and it walks you through how to track what's actually happening in your family, not just what looks fair on paper. It gives couples a way to finally see each other's load without having to fight about it. Once you can see what's actually happening in the family, once it's out of your head and onto paper or the computer, something interesting happens. You start to notice where the pressure points are, where the decisions pile up, where the stress spikes, where the fights tend to start. And that's where these apps come in. They're not random tools. They're ways to take the heaviest parts of the load and move them out of your nervous system and into something shared. So let me show you how that looks in real life. The first one is, you've heard of it, a shared Google Calendar or some calendar. And when I suggest a shared calendar, I'm not talking about micromanaging each other. I'm talking about offloading memory. And here's how I encourage couples to use it. Once a week, often during a short logistics check-in with each other, you sit down, you look at the week ahead, you add school drop-offs and pickups, pediatrician or dentist appointments, work meetings that could affect childcare, practices, games, or activities, anything that changes your normal flow of the day. The key isn't perfection, it's shared awareness. Instead of one person thinking, I have to remember all of this or it falls apart, both partners can see the shape of their week, and what often happens in that moment is really important. One partner says something like, oh, no wonder you're tired, or I didn't realize how packed this week was. And that visibility alone can lower the defensiveness. It creates empathy without anyone having to argue their case, and the calendar becomes this neutral third party and not a scoreboard. Number 2 is shared notes. Think of shared notes as your external brain. And I usually recommend starting with just one shared note, not a whole system. Keep it simple. You might call it a family list or this week or running list, whatever you want to call it. And use it for things like your groceries or errands you have to run, just random reminders that come up. Anything that you don't want to forget to mention. So instead of thinking, oh, I need to remind them later, you just write it down, let it go. And instead of texting multiple times throughout the day, both of you have a place to check the same thing, right? And this does 2 really important things for couples. First, it reduces the mental load of tracking and reminding. And second, it removes the emotional charge from the reminders. Because now you're not nagging, you're not forgetting, and you're just both referencing that same list. And the shift alone can dramatically reduce tension that often misfires. So why does this work? Tools don't create closeness directly. What they do is they create space in your brain, space in your nervous system, space in your relationship. And when there's more space, there's room for patience. There's room for humor to come back. Connection becomes possible again. And the third app is Hungryroot. And why this one actually matters. My least favorite time of day is dinner time. And I'm not exaggerating, I'm being honest. By the time dinner rolls around, I am exhausted. I've made hundreds of decisions during the day. I've been emotionally present for clients, for my kids, for whoever. And on top of that, we're often juggling practices, games, and just getting everyone where they need to be. When someone asks me what's for dinner, it does not feel neutral to me. It feels like one more thing my already tired brain has to solve. And so over the years, I've tried so many systems for dinner time. I even wrote on my blog years ago about using emails to plan meals. And I've tried lists, schedules, and many different methods because I knew this moment was a huge pressure point for me. And I don't particularly love cooking. I wish I did, but I don't. But for the last several years, I've used Hungryroot. That's what's worked for me. And not because it's the only option. There's lots of meal services out there, but because for me, it removes that daily decision. Again, most couples don't fight about meals because they disagree about chicken or pasta. They fight because by 5 or 6, their systems are already maxed out. And here's how I suggest using it. You sit down together once a week, right? And you choose the meals that you both generally like. And after that, for instance, Hungryroot handles everything. Like plans them, it does the shopping, and then that big chunk of the mental work is gone. Like it delivers them to me once a week. I get the delivery, I put it in the refrigerator, and then the recipes are right there and they're so easy to make. So instead of what do you want? I don't know. You decide. No, you decide. You just open the fridge and you start cooking. And that sounds small, but in a tired household, that's enormous. It means fewer negotiations, fewer micro conflicts, and just more energy left for actual connection. And when dinner's handled, especially on those nights when you're rushing from one thing to the next, I'm calmer, I'm more patient with my kids. I'm kinder to the people I love. And that's why this kind of tool isn't just about the food. It's about protecting your nervous system at the most vulnerable part of your day. And number 4, the weekly logistics meeting. This is the most powerful tool I give couples, and it doesn't require an app. It's once a week, ideally at the same time. Maybe it's a Sunday afternoon or a Monday night. You sit down together for about 15 to 30 minutes. Again, it's ideally at the same time every week, but I realize that's not always possible. And you don't need a perfect setup. You might be on the couch, you might be at the kitchen table, you might be even doing it while the kids are playing in the background. If you have older kids, you might have them join you so they can speak to what they have coming up on their schedules. And you open up two things. You open up your shared calendar and you open up your shared notes, and you simply look at the week ahead. Again, not to debate, not to criticize, just to see it and go day by day and notice like who's busy, where are their tight spots, what feels like a lot. And then you ask 3 gentle questions. What's coming up this week? What feels heavy for you? And where could I support you? And this isn't about dividing everything perfectly because that's impossible. It's about not being alone in the load. And when couples don't do this, one person usually ends up running the whole week in their head, the appointments, school, meals, deadlines, logistics, and the other person is reacting in real time, which creates tension and misfires. This meeting moves all of that invisible planning out of the brain and into a shared space. What often happens is really subtle but powerful. People stop bracing, they stop reminding, they stop silently tracking, and they feel like they're finally on the same team again. And that shift alone changes how couples feel about each other. Fifth app is the Gottman Card Decks. And this is where you come back to being a couple, not just co-managers. And I usually suggest using this after the kids are asleep or during a quiet moment, or maybe even in the car, like they're at practice and you guys are sitting in the car waiting for them to be done. You don't have to be emotionally creative. You don't have to know what to say. You just open the app. There's several categories. You pick a category and then you each answer the question. And it might be something light, it might be something meaningful, but what matters is that it creates connection without effort, which is exactly what tired parents need. So why these tools work together is that the calendar and the notes, they help reduce that cognitive load, right? The Hungryroot reduces your decision fatigue. The weekly meeting creates that shared awareness. And then the Gottman app creates emotional connection. And together, they take that pressure off your nervous system. And when your nervous system is calmer, your relationship feels safer. The relationship doesn't need more effort, it needs more space. And when the mental load is lighter, love has room to breathe. So in the next video, I will show you how to handle conflicts without hurting your relationship, so you can transform your conflict into connection. So just click that video right there and I'll walk you through it. You don't have to do this alone, and I'll see you next time.